Hi, welcome. We are going to be going over our results for our NASA Mars lander. I am going to really quickly go do some introductions. We're going to then talk about the background for this assignment, any requirements we had. We're going to go into our final design, all of the activity that we had during the manufacturing phase. We're going to talk about our test results, and then we're going to conclude this. I am Charlie Butler. We have Charles Miller, Micah Salas, and Marie Walker, and we are the Eggcellent Descent. This was a request for proposal from NASA. Some of the customer requirements that we had were that the lander must deliver two astronauts to the surface of Mars, and we are going to record the process on launch day, which was today. The lander is going to carry two pilots, which are eggs, and the lander should be reusable. The eggs are going to be weighing up to 59 grams each. We're going to drop them in the atrium A onto tile. The lander is going to survive two drops of 11 feet, and we are going to make a final report of a 10 to 15 minute video. Marie Walker is going to talk about our drawing design.
Hi, I'm Marie, and as you see to the left, we have the side photo. Our design from the bottom to the top of the plastic bag was 95 centimeters. Our front photo shows the pieces of pool noodle being taped and also shows the length and width as 23 centimeters. The top facing photo shows the plastic bag connected to the sides, and in the middle, we have cut up pool noodles that we used for support. So this is our materials list. We used a cardboard box for $5, a pool noodle again for $5, and we used a sheet of bubble wrap for $2, a plastic bag for $1, and we had 10 rubber bands that we used for 50 cents to a total of $13.50, and no changes were made to our original plan. This is a photo of the materials that we used labeled.
Hello, I'm Micah Salas. I will be going over the a construction plan that we made for our design. So we started off by taking the cardboard that we brought and folding it into approximately a 6 by 6 box. Following that, we then cut our pool noodle in half, creating these semicircles that we would use to then tape two to each side of the box, minus the top. Um, Following that, we would then cut more chunks of that pool noodle up to then throw inside of the box for extra cushioning for our pilots. Um, and then we would then go into our step four where we would cut two small holes on opposite ends of the box so we could loop some rubber bands through to then tie to our bag slash parachute. Um, then we would use the remaining of our rubber bands to add four more rubber bands to each side to create length so that air can reach into that parachute and really open it up. Um, and then we use the remaining pool noodle supply that we had to cut a longer piece to then insert into the parachute horizontally. That would help to open up that parachute further. Uh, and then preceding that, we would then wrap the pilots in bubble wrap, ensuring that there is bubble wrap on all sides of them, including in between them, and then place them inside of that box and sealing it off with a piece of tape. So there weren't very many changes to our original plan outside of extra materials being used up. So our pool noodle was much larger than we expected. So we were able to add those chunks, which weren't a part of our original plan, as we planned on using the entire noodle to support the outside. This also meant that the design to add support for the parachute was made available due to those extra resources, along with adding on to the already made design of cushion to the outside of the box. The only challenges we really faced throughout this process, mainly during the construction phase, were that the pool noodles weren't sticking very well to the outside of our box. So we did have to go through and really wrap a lot of tape around the entire box to ensure that they were secure during the 11 and third story drop. We also noticed that at shorter drops, the parachute wasn't staying open. So we did decide to add that pool noodle to help solve that issue. And then these are the different views we have of our final design. So as you can see from the top, it really just shows the parachute. The front view shows kind of the extra cushioning we were able to add all around to everything, along with that design of putting the small holes into the box to connect the rubber bands to the parachute. And then the side view just kind of gives you a better look at what the parachute is being held open by inside with that orange noodle on the inside.
This is basically our testing checklist that we had to get officially signed off from AATA. As you can see, the first thing we measured our vehicle. It was approximately 23 centimeters length and width, and then it was 95 centimeters tall. This was a lot taller than we expected, but this is due to the size of our parachute was much kind of larger than we thought originally, and then we also added extra rubber bands to connect the parachute to the box, which increased the size significantly. The first test from 11 feet, it took approximately 27.5 seconds to load the pilots in, and when we dropped it, we noticed that there was no damages that we could see to the vehicle itself. And then once we removed the test pilots, which took approximately 13 seconds, we noticed that the pilots were in good condition and we could not see any damage on either of them. Then, because our test was successful, we did our second test from 11 feet, and then it took approximately 18.95 seconds to load the pilots onto the test vehicle, and then we dropped them. There was no change in size that we could see, nor could we see any damages from it. And then, once we unloaded the undamaged vehicle, we could see that the pilots were fine, and it took approximately 9.2 seconds. Due to all of these successes, we got it all signed off, which means we earned a revenue of $100,000. Also, to add on, our pilots' names for the first two tests were Travis Kelsey and T Swift. Now, the first two videos are the 11-foot test videos with our pilots T Swift and Travis Kelsey. Some things to note during this test is that you can see that the parachute isn't fully expanding due to how short of a drop it is. It only really expands on the bottom few feet of it. However, the crash box was designed soundly enough that the eggs were fine.
That was
Now, because our first two tests were successful, we were able to go on to the third durability test, which was a 30-foot drop. In this one, you want to mainly note that our parachute or our test vehicle is the red box with the parachute on the far right side. As you can see from this one, due to the increased height, the parachute was able to open fully, so that could slow the vehicle down more, which means less force upon impact. This is me.
Mhm.
Oh, sorry. Um, this is our before and afters of each box. As you can see, that you can't really notice any damage. The lean, I believe, is from the angle of the photo taken. The inside of the box, it's just the chunks of the pool noodles, but those were unchanged more or less. And you can see the pool noodles were fine, and then not really shown very well in this photo, but you can see that the rubber bands also seemed fine as well as the parachute itself.
All right, so what did we accomplish? What were our conclusions and takeaways? For the design phase, I would say there was very little changes from our original proposal to our final design. We discussed them, but there were just very few changes in our design, and our final design was very successful. I think all of the things that we added to it worked exactly as planned. The assembly came together very well. We had amazing construction managers that delegated the work, and our assembly had amazing communication throughout the entire process, proposal and final design. And how did we do? Our lander was a complete success. Oh my gosh. Our lander was a complete success. The vehicle survived 2 drops of 11 feet and another drop of 30 feet. So I'm very proud of our design. And one thing to note was that our load time took a little bit longer than anticipated, but it was well under regulation, and so we have nothing to complain about. Finally, if we were to do this project again and make any changes, I would say maybe just a smaller box and a larger parachute, but overall, I would not change any of the fundamental aspects of our design. This was Excellent Descent. We thank you so much for listening. Goodbye. Okay, perfect.
That was so good, guys.
All right. Did you see how long we
Also,
made it to?